and I never really carried anything, so they couldn't get me even if they wanted to toss me. I never carried nothing. Everybody worked for me. I didn't hold it and sell like myself. These guys. What I used to do is package up 10 grams at a time. So I'd give him 10 grams, and I had a guy that would package with me, and then he'd give it to how many people we had working that would work pieces. So say there was 30 guys in the neighborhood, we'd give them a certain amount of grams in quarters, in halves, in gram pieces, and then if they ran out and they needed, each bar was near each other, they would switch and call each other or text each other and say, "Hey, do you got a gram down the block a piece? I'm out of gram pieces," and So I mean, we were pretty sophisticated actually
How what were the cuts like? How does it work? For the
for
people.
every 10 grams that were out there.
How much is
The
10
guy,
grams?
the guys would, well, back then you'd sell 100 a gram.
Okay.
You didn't really give those discounts to 85. I know years later, but that came years later. But back then, actually, sometimes 110 a gram, and you'd give the guys 300 each. They would make on 10 grams, but 10 grams nothing. They'd up 3 or 4 times a night. So
Sounds it.
they would up it 3 or 4 times a night, and so we were busy. I mean, one guy might sell 30, 40 grams a night. Another guy will sell 100 grams a night in pieces.
Wow.
So we had from South Jamaica from my after hours. We'd have all the way up into Brooklyn, down to Ridgewood. We'd go to Bayside. So we were all over, Queens, Brooklyn.
Now, do you think that ultimately, like in the example you just gave with this kind of sting, the ultimate goal was to get after you? Was that
Oh yeah, I'm the guy they're looking for, and who I work with. So who I work with's the mob, right? And who we're buying from, and we were buying from cartel guy. We're buying from a lot. I'd always have about 10 different suppliers. So depending, some of them were cartel guys, some of them were just guys like myself and Italian guys from Mafia, or we'd have some other guys like I did business with a lot of the bikers because my friend at the time was president of Hell's Angels. So they did more with speed, but we did some business with coke too.
who had the best quality product?
My friend Henry, I dated the father got killed by the cartel, and they forced the son Henry actually to do business with them, and he started working his father's debt off, and I was dating his sister Lorraine, and I just stumbled on him because me and her were talking. She told me the story. She was crying about how they killed the father, forced the brother into business, but he probably had the best coke that I did business with in a long time, and they lived by St. John's University.
Now, for you, when you first heard, you're at the White Horse and you start seeing things that are not adding up or getting a little fishy, what's going on internally for you? Does that become a way more stressful time? Are you going around asking and figuring it out, or is that kind of regular day at the office?
Yeah, it's a regular day at the office, and you just kind of know, these guys are idiots. I know I'm insulated, even if they pinch them and they tell them it's me and this and that. These guys that really weren't close to me, I didn't even let them know where my safe houses were. These are just my workers on the street. But guys like Dennis Pittman, I was very close to his brother Kevin. Kevin Pittman was very close. He did time with Frankie Burke, and we were all mingled together, friendly. Guys like we had the bar at the PM that I would give this to Ronnie One and they would run that bar. So we all had, it was a cell system of guys. So I would give the coke to Ronnie One. Ronnie would have his guys running down, and Keith Croce kind of used to work for Ronnie also at the PM pub and someone. So he'd run that section. Then I had the main bar where I would give it to this guy Keith Pellegrino, and he'd have his guys. They'd run that section. Then I'd go to Pool Hall on 102nd and Jamaica Avenue. That was Guy Peden. He'd run that section. I had the guy from Mateo's restaurant, Matty, that worked for Guy, and he had a candy store at the time off 101st Avenue by Villa Russo. He would sell for me. So, but they'd all go through their own guys that were my guys. So when guys tell me how many guys you had, well, I just named just my top guys that would have guys at work, and they'd all run each section. And then they come back to me and ask me, well, I need this. And then I had Joe Galliano in Ridgewood, and he had a factory there. So we had all the Spanish crowd on that section. And it was run we ran it pretty well.
Who are the most like efficient suppliers?
Uh,
Who
but
ran, who ran the tightest shift? Was it the Colombians?
Yeah, I mean, back in those days in the 80s, I had a cousin of mine that was involved with the Detroit mob. He was in the laundromat business, in hotels, and the linen business, actually, not laundromat. But the linen business was very mob control back then, and so he had a big hook. This guy Pete, through the cartels and through the mob, that would drive it down for me from Detroit. They do their route and end up at me last, and we'd meet, and then I'd pick up whatever from him at the time, about 10 keys a month, just from him. But I had different suppliers again, because if you're going to run short, you got to make sure. Or if I knew that it was getting short on the street, then I'd pick up 100 keys or something, and I'd store it different at location.